This is a quick review of Tavern Master. It is an indie game with a sole developer, available for about US $12, and I completed this in around 10 hours. But don't let that put you off, it is fun after all. Where else can you throw a party that a king and queen turn up to? Then when they finally sit down in your tavern, they don't get served, they sit separately and sort of indicate to the waiting paparazzi outside that there are in fact tensions in the royal household. They sat there for ages and I never even gave the queen a drink. Time for a rebellion. Don't forget to tickle that sub button if you like what you see. It is always much appreciated. I have starving kids to feed and I do my YouTube videos out of a rusty garage. You see, I'm so sick I can barely work. Nah, you do what you like, dudes. I just appreciate you watching, to be honest. Right, let's get into it. Tavern Master is an indie game with a solo developer, and I mean, good on him. I've been on his Discord for a few weeks now, monitoring it, seeing what's going on. He is pretty engaged and has a bit of a roadmap planned. Let's have a look at that. And some of it looks like it will address some of my concerns here. Nice. So, I'd buy this game if you like the look of it, like the concept, but you need to understand that it does have a limited playtime. But that will change a bit. But how? It isn't much, is it? Let's face it, it's only a few dollars. And here in New Zealand, for the cost of this game, I could get 3 of my favourite decaf trim flat whites. And hell, I got 10 hours out of the game, so that's not too bad, is it? The overall concept of the game. It is pretty straightforward. You own a tavern, you will look to expand it, build more tables, decorate it, hire staff and bring in customers. The aim at this stage is to get to the point of bringing in the royals for dinner. To do this, you'll need to build up your menu, make the tavern more appealing, complete a pretty large number of game quests, and these are things like serving 100 customers in a day or only serving desserts or mains for a day. These give you points, and with these you unlock rewards. And ultimately, with the right rewards and right supplies and fancy enough tavern and menu, you'll be able to bring in the royals. You need to earn money, and you do this by selling drinks and food and getting tips. The more people you bring in, the more you serve, the more you make in gold coins. But of course, the bigger your tavern gets, the more staff you need, the more costs you incur, like salaries, so there is a bit of a balance there. But I found it pretty easy to earn money as long as I wasn't constantly spending it on decorations. I think of the game as having zones. It has a seating area, then a bar area, and a kitchen area. And there's a bit of pathway optimization going on, but it isn't complex and nothing moves without your waitress's help. So they need to take orders, collect and serve drinks and food and then clear it all up. Several times watching this I was reminded, God, it must be bloody rough to be a waitress. It's not a job I'd like to do, and I've never done it and I never will. Now, the seating area, I'd imagine most people will end up setting it up similar to what I did here. It just seemed logical to me. Everything you place has a cost to purchase and then put down, but when you do that, it gives your tavern prestige. A fancy table gives you a lot more than just a crappy stool, no pun intended there. And you can decorate the place with various things, each providing various levels of prestige depending on their value. The bar area is where your drinks are served from, and you can add barrels to the area with new beverages in them, which people will eventually want. And the kitchen, of course, is where your chefs are, is where the food is prepared and picked up from. You will jump in and out of the kitchen a fair bit during the game. Later on I'll talk a little bit more about this, but you will have to go into the kitchen and resupply the various items to keep your menu operating correctly. So of course you have staff, and you will have to hire them and you will pay them salaries. And as they get experience, you can level them up and they get better at their jobs, costing you a bit more money in turn. Sometimes they get a bit grumpy, but as making money is pretty easy, just pay them heaps more, or simply sack them and bring in new blood. It is capitalism at its best. And of course, you can unlock adventurers. Now to do that you have to put down a table, and these brave souls come sit around and you can select adventures for them to go out on. As you level them up you can do more and harder adventures, and if they're successful they bring in rewards of money and, oddly enough, food products like strawberries or peas or meats. Now that is very odd, but it is a game mechanic where these food rewards are important in allowing you to hold the festivals, and bringing your royals in is the main big festival. There's lots of little ones, but that mechanic is quite important to the game. These require you to have enough prestige, and then the other requirements to host them on certain days. If you serve the special guests that turn up the correct food and beverages that they want, and it is a successful festival or an event, you get gold coins in reward. Anyway, there is more to the game, a lot more in fact, but we're just going to move on. What works really well? Keeping it quick, the various things you need to do all tie in really well together, and in the early part of the game it is quite enjoyable placing items, trying out the new layouts. It is a pretty smooth, well thought out process. The people look good. I'd call it a typical Unity engine look, though I know that's a bit harsh, more a typical look for a game like this. There is a nice variety of people who come into a tavern, they move well, the whole place runs kind of nice, it feels good, it feels like a tavern. And the progression of your tavern is logical. It takes time, requires you to work at things, and it all makes sense, and it is quite well done. Honestly, I really quite liked it. Now, one thing about a game when you know that something isn't quite right is when you're playing it in fast forward. And I would say the last 4 hours of my game, or maybe the last 3 hours, I was playing it in fast forward constantly because there wasn't too much more of a challenge. I just wanted to progress the game, I wanted to move it along. So, on that note, I'd say the game is just a little quick. Though of course the game doesn't end up when I did with the royals turning up. You can just keep playing, but after about 10 hours I'd done everything to do in the game and called it quits. The game is linear, which is perhaps to be expected, but the linear line is just not long enough. The tech tree is good, just a bit small, it needs some more expansion. And the researchers you need to hire to unlock some of the advanced technologies just seem totally out of place. I mean, I've got a tavern and for some reason I have to hire these researchers and stick them at tables. It's just meaningless and shallow. That bit is wrong. And the tavern, despite it looking and sounding good, well, it's just dull. Nothing happens that you don't plan. The people don't feel alive. They don't have personalities. Now I know there are plans to add in fights and other random events shortly, and that truthfully will be a great addition. Now I kept this review quick as I don't see the need to go into too much depth. It's a small game, and so I'm just giving it a small review. But at this stage, for US $12, you can't go wrong. Buy it, jump into the Discord and be part of the community and go on the adventure. Is it perfect? No. Does it need more work? Yes, but it looks like a lot of that is coming. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this very quick review, and don't forget to like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and see you in the next chapter.